I used to believe loyalty was everything. Then I found them in my bed, in my home, destroying everything I thought was real. I didn't cry. I just watched karma work. Welcome to the last lesson. If you're new here, subscribe for real stories about heartbreak, healing, and the strength we find when life breaks us. Let's begin. I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I wasn't the kind of girl who questioned loyalty. I didn't go through my phone. I didn't create tests or play mind games to see if someone really loved me. When I trusted you completely. Maybe that was my mistake. Or maybe it was the most beautiful thing about me before everything fell apart. His name was Jake. We met during my sophomore year of college at one of those cramped house parties where the music's too loud and everyone's pretending to have more fun than they actually are. I was standing in the kitchen trying to escape the chaos when he walked in looking just as lost as I felt. He smiled at me, not that flirty, overconfident smile most guys wear like a mask, but something softer. Something real. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said. I laughed. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who feels the same way. That was how it started. Not with fireworks or grand gestures. Just two people who didn't quite fit into the noise, finding each other in the quiet spaces between it all. Within 3 months, we were inseparable. Jake was the kind of boyfriend who remembered the little things, how I tipped my coffee, the way I hated sleeping without a fan on, how I'd get quiet when I was overwhelmed and just needed someone to sit with me in silence. He made me feel seen in a way I didn't know I needed. And then there was Mia. Mia had been my best friend since junior year of high school. We were the kind of friends people wrote stories about. The ones who knew each other's families, shared clothes, finished each other's sentences. She was bold where I was cautious, loud where I was soft. We balanced each other. When I got into the same college as her, it felt like fate. Like we were meant to do life together. So when Jake came into my life, it only made sense that Mia would be part of it too. At first, I loved how well they got along. It felt like proof that my life was finally falling into place. My boyfriend and my best friend actually liked each other. No awkward tension. No jealousy. Just easy laughter and comfortable silences. The three of us sprawled across my apartment floor on Friday nights, binge-watching shows and arguing about which pizza toppings were acceptable. Mia would tease Jake about his terrible taste in music. Jake would roast Mia's driving skills. I'd sit between them, feeling this overwhelming sense of gratitude. I had everything I needed. I had them. Looking back now, I can see the signs I ignored. Small things. Tiny moments that didn't feel important at the time. Like the way Jake's laugh sounded different when Mia told a joke. Louder, more eager, like he was trying just a little too hard. Or how Mia started texting him separately, saying she wanted to plan a surprise for my birthday, or coordinate a group hangout without overwhelming me with the details. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Thoughtful, even. I remember one night, we were all watching a movie at my place. I had fallen asleep on Jake's shoulder. I'd had a long day, and the warmth of his body next to mine just pulled me under. When I woke up an hour later, the movie was over. Jake and Mia were still sitting there, talking in low voices, and when I stirred, they both went quiet. "Hey, sleepyhead," Jake said, kissing the top of my head. Mia smiled at me. "We were just talking about how cute you look when you snore." "I don't snore," I mumbled, still half asleep. They both laughed. Everything felt normal. Safe. But there was something in the air that night. Something I couldn't name. A tension I told myself I was imagining. Another time, I came back from class early and walked into my apartment to find them sitting way too close on the couch. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were just talking. But they jumped apart when I walked in, like I'd caught them at something. "Hey, babe," Jake said, too brightly. "Didn't know you'd be back so soon." Mia laughed, tucking her hair behind her ear. "We were just trying to figure out what to get you for your anniversary." I believed them. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? I told myself I was being paranoid. Insecure. I didn't want to be that girlfriend, the one who saw threats in every friendship, who turned love into surveillance. So I swallowed the discomfort. I smiled. I thanked them for being so thoughtful. But late at night, when Jake was asleep beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling and feel this quiet, creeping dread I couldn't explain. The hugs between them started lasting a little too long. Mia's hand would linger on Jake's arm when she laughed. Jake started mentioning her more. Mia said the funniest thing today, or Mia thinks we should try that new restaurant. At first, I brushed it off. They were friends. My friends. I wanted them to get along. But somewhere deep down, in a place I didn't want to admit existed, I knew. I knew something was shifting. I just didn't want to see it. Because seeing it would mean questioning everything. It would mean doubting the two people I loved most in the world. And I wasn't ready for that. I don't think anyone ever really is. So I kept pretending. Kept smiling through the weird moments, the inside jokes I wasn't part of, the nights when Jake seemed distracted and Mia seemed too interested in his opinion on everything. I convinced myself I was lucky. That having a boyfriend and a best friend who loved each other was a blessing, not a warning sign. I thought trust meant never asking questions. I thought loyalty meant believing in people even when the truth was whispering in your ear, begging you to listen. I was wrong, but I didn't know that yet. Not in those warm, golden days when everything still felt whole. When I still believed that the people you love would never hurt you. When I still thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I had no idea how wrong I was. And I had no idea that soon, everything I thought was real would shatter in a way I could never put back together. They say you never forget the moment your world ends. Mine ended on a Tuesday afternoon in my own apartment when I opened my bedroom door and saw them together. I wasn't supposed to be home. That's the part that haunts me the most. If I had stayed at my parents' house just one more day, if I hadn't felt that sudden, urgent need to come back early, if I had texted Jake before I left like I usually did, maybe I would have lived in ignorance a little longer. Maybe that would have been easier. But I didn't. And now I know that some truths find you whether you're ready for them or not. It was a Tuesday in late October. I'd driven 3 hours to visit my family for what was supposed to be a long weekend. My mom had been feeling lonely, and I wanted to spend time with her before midterms consumed my life. Jake had encouraged me to go, told me he'd be fine, that he'd probably just catch up on work and hang out with some friends. Take your time, he'd said, kissing my forehead as I loaded my overnight bag into my car. Your mom needs you. I'll be here when you get back. I believed him. God, I believed every word. But on Tuesday morning, my mom got called into an unexpected work emergency. She felt terrible about cutting our visit short, but I told her it was fine. I'd just head home early, maybe surprise Jake with dinner, spend a quiet evening together before the chaos of the week started again. I texted Mia on the drive back, heading home early. Want to grab coffee later? She didn't respond. I figured she was busy with class or maybe sleeping in. Mia was never great in the mornings. I didn't text Jake. I wanted it to be a surprise. The drive felt longer than usual. I had this strange feeling in my chest the whole way. Not quite anxiety, not quite dread. Just this heavy awareness that something was different. I told myself it was nothing. That I was tired. That I was overthinking things like I always did. When I pulled into my apartment complex, I noticed Mia's car in the parking lot. My first thought was, oh, maybe she's surprising Jake too. Maybe they're planning something for me. Even then, even with everything I'd felt over the past few months, I was still making excuses. Still finding innocent explanations. Still refusing to see what was right in front of me. I walked up the stairs to my second-floor apartment, keys in hand. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open quietly, expecting to hear voices in the living room. Maybe laughter. Maybe the sound of them conspiring about some surprise they were planning. Instead, I heard nothing. The apartment was silent. Too silent. I set my bag down by the door and walked through the living room. Everything looked normal. Jake's shoes by the couch. Mia's jacket draped over the back of a chair. 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, both empty. My heart started beating faster. I don't know what made me walk toward the bedroom. Maybe some part of me already knew. Maybe your body understands betrayal before your mind is willing to accept it. The bedroom door was slightly open. I pushed it wider, and there they were, Jake and Mia, in my bed, tangled in my sheets, her head on his bare chest, his arm around her waist, both of them asleep, peaceful, like they belonged there, like this was normal, like I didn't exist. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there in the doorway, frozen, watching them breathe in perfect rhythm with each other. The afternoon light filtered through my curtains, the curtains I'd picked out in the apartment I'd decorated, in the bed I'd shared with him for 2 years, and illuminated them like some kind of twisted artwork. I don't know how long I stood there. It could have been 10 seconds. It could have been 10 minutes. Time stopped meaning anything. Jake stirred first. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the light. Then he saw me, and I watched his face transform in real time. Confusion, then recognition, then pure, absolute horror. "Babe," he started, scrambling to sit up, pulling the sheet around his waist. The movement woke Mia. She blinked, disoriented, and then her eyes found mine. The look on her face is something I'll never forget. Not guilt, not remorse, just fear. Fear of being caught. "Oh my God," she whispered, clutching the sheet to her chest. "Oh my God, this isn't." I still didn't say anything. I just stared at them both, waiting to feel something. Rage, devastation, anything. But I felt nothing. Just this eerie, hollow calm. Jake stumbled out of bed, trying to pull on his jeans. "Please, just let me explain. This isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed at that. The oldest lie in the book, and he really thought I'd believe it. "How long?" My voice came out steady, cold. I barely recognized it as my own. "What?" Jake's hands were shaking as he tried to button his jeans. "How long has this been happening?" Mia started crying, actual tears streaming down her face, her hands covering her mouth like she was the victim in all of this. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. It just happened. I swear, we didn't mean for—" "How long?" Jake ran his hands through his hair, and I saw it then. The guilt, yes, but also something else. Relief. Like part of him was glad he didn't have to hide anymore. 2 months, he said quietly. 2 months. 2 months of lying to my face. 2 months of holding me at night while thinking about her. 2 months of letting me plan our future while he was building a different one behind my back. I nodded slowly, like he just told me something mundane. Like he told me what he had for lunch. Then I turned around and walked to my closet. I pulled out my duffel bag, the same one I'd taken to my parents' house, and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, the framed photo of my grandmother from my nightstand. "What are you doing?" Jake asked, his voice rising in panic. "Babe, please, can we just talk about this? I made a mistake, okay? A huge mistake, but we can work through this." I zipped the bag closed and turned to face him. "You should leave," I said calmly. "Both of you. This is my apartment. My name is on the lease. Get your things and get out." "Please," Mia begged, now fully dressed, mascara running down her face. "Please, just let me explain. I never wanted to hurt you. You're my best friend. Get out." Something in my tone must have finally registered, because they both stopped talking. They gathered their things in silence, Jake's overnight bag from under the bed, Mia's purse from the living room, and I watched them, still feeling nothing. At the door, Jake turned back one last time. "I really did love you," he said, and he sounded like he meant it. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I was staring at a stranger. "No," I said quietly. "You didn't. Because people who love you don't do this." They left. I locked the door behind them, walked back to my bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed they'd just been in. And that's when I finally felt it. Not sadness, not rage, just this crystal clear understanding that everything I'd built my life around was a lie. I pulled out my phone and blocked both of their numbers. Blocked them on every social media platform. Deleted every photo, every text message, every trace of them from my digital life. Then I called my sister. "Can I stay with you for a while?" I asked when she answered. "Of course," she said immediately, hearing something in my voice. "What happened?" "I'll tell you when I get there." I grabbed my bag, took one last look at the apartment that no longer felt like home, and walked out. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't cry at my sister's place when I finally told her everything. I just felt empty, hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left nothing but air. But underneath that emptiness, something else was stirring. something cold and patient. I didn't know it yet, but I wouldn't need to plan any revenge. Karma was already working. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I never served it at all. I just stepped back and let them destroy themselves. Sometimes, karma doesn't need your help. The first week after I left, I barely functioned. I stayed in my sister's apartment, sleeping on her couch, staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, replaying every moment in my head. Every red flag I'd ignored. Every lie I'd believed. Every time I'd chosen trust over intuition. My sister, Rachel, didn't push me to talk. She just existed beside me, bringing me coffee in the mornings, ordering takeout at night, letting me be silent when words felt impossible. She never said, "I told you so," even though she'd always had reservations about how close Jake and Mia were. "What are you going to do?" she asked me one night, about 5 days after it happened. I stared at my cold tea. Nothing. Nothing. I'm not going to blow up their lives. I'm not going to blast them on social media or tell everyone what they did. I'm just going to disappear from their story. Rachel studied my face. "That's very mature of you." I shook my head. "It's not maturity. I just don't have the energy to hate them. Hating them would mean still caring, and I'm so tired of caring." What I didn't tell her was that I had looked at their social media once, just once, before I blocked them. I'd seen that Jake had already posted a photo of him and Mia together. Her laughing, his arm around her shoulders, the caption reading, "Sometimes the right person was there all along." 3 days after he'd been caught in my bed. 3 days, and he'd already rewritten our entire history, like I was just a chapter he'd finished reading. The comments were full of people who didn't know the truth, congratulating them, saying they looked so happy together, asking what happened to his ex. Some mutual friends had started piecing it together, though. I could see the skeptical comments, the questions about the timeline. But I didn't add to it. I didn't comment, didn't explain, didn't defend myself. I just vanished. The second week, I started rebuilding. I went back to my apartment, and scrubbed every inch of it. I washed the sheets, rearranged the furniture, bought new curtains. I erased every trace of Jake until the space felt like mine again. It was exhausting, but it was necessary. I threw myself into my classes with an intensity that surprised even me. I'd always been a good student, but now I was exceptional. I needed something to focus on, something that was entirely mine, something they couldn't touch or ruin. I started going to the gym at 6 in the morning, started meal prepping on Sundays, started building a routine that had nothing to do with anyone else's schedule or needs or desires. I was learning how to be alone. And slowly, painfully, I was learning that alone didn't have to mean lonely. By the 3rd week, I started hearing things. Not from Jake or Mia. They were still blocked, still completely removed from my life, but from mutual friends who didn't know how to navigate the social fallout. "Did you know they got together right after you guys split?" Someone asked me at a coffee shop near campus, clearly fishing for drama. I just smiled. I'm not really thinking about them anymore. But the whispers were everywhere. People were doing the math, checking old Instagram posts, realizing that the timeline didn't add up. That Jake and Mia's spontaneous new love had overlapped significantly with my relationship. I didn't fuel the fire. I didn't need to. The truth was doing that all on its own. A month passed. Then 2. I was genuinely healing. I'd started hanging out with other friends, people who didn't know Jake or Mia, who didn't ask questions about what happened. I'd even gone on a few casual dates, nothing serious, just reminders that I was still capable of connecting with people who actually respected me. I'd stopped checking their social media through mutual friends' accounts. I'd stopped wondering what they were doing, or if they ever thought about me. I was finally, truly moving on. And that's when karma started its work. It was December when I heard the first crack in their perfect facade. A girl from one of my classes, someone who was friends with Mia's roommate, mentioned casually that Mia had been crying a lot lately. I didn't ask why. I didn't care. But she told me anyway. Apparently Jake's been really distant. Like, they fight all the time now. Her roommate says she hears them arguing through the walls. I nodded politely and changed the subject. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel like a small exhale. like the universe was finally balancing itself out. By January, 6 months after everything fell apart, the stories started coming faster. Jake had been caught texting another girl, someone from his work. Mia had found the messages and confronted him, and he'd apparently told her she was being paranoid and acting crazy. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mia had called some of our old mutual friends, desperate for support, trying to paint herself as the victim of Jake's emotional manipulation. But those same friends remembered what she'd done to me. They remembered how quickly she'd moved on, how little remorse she'd shown. Nobody wanted to comfort her. Nobody trusted her anymore. People were dropping her, one by one. The social circle we'd all shared was fractured, and she was on the outside of it, realizing too late that betrayal has a cost. Meanwhile, Jake had apparently lost his job. The details were murky, something about workplace drama and inappropriate conduct, but the end result was clear. His life was unraveling. I didn't celebrate any of this. I didn't feel vindicated or victorious. I just felt distant, like I was watching a movie about people I used to know. In March, 9 months after that horrible Tuesday afternoon, I saw Mia in person for the first time. I was at a coffee shop near campus, working on a paper when she walked in. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, none of the confidence she used to carry everywhere. Our eyes met across the room. She froze. Then, slowly, she walked over to my table. "Can I sit?" she asked, her voice small. I gestured to the empty chair, not because I wanted her company, but because I was curious what she could possibly say to me now. She sat down, hands wrapped around her coffee, cupped like she needed something to hold on to. "I know you probably hate me," she started. "I don't hate you," I said honestly. "I don't feel anything about you at all anymore." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Maybe indifference hurt more than anger. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. What I did was unforgivable, and her voice cracked. I lost everything. My friends, Jake, my self-respect. And I know I deserve it, but I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did to you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone completely broken. Someone who traded real friendship for a relationship built on betrayal, and had discovered too late that foundations made of lies never hold. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said quietly. "I really do. But it's not going to be with me." I gathered my things and stood up. "Wait," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Is there any chance we could ever?" "No," I said simply. "There isn't. Take care of yourself, Mia." I walked out of that coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because I'd gotten revenge. Not because I'd watched them suffer. But because I finally understood something crucial. Their destruction was never my responsibility. Their guilt was never mine to carry. I'd spent so long thinking that closure meant getting an apology or seeing them hurt the way they'd hurt me. But real closure came from realizing I didn't need anything from them at all. I didn't need Jake to understand the pain he'd caused. I didn't need Mia to grovel or beg for forgiveness. I just needed to become someone who would never tolerate that treatment again. And I had. The best revenge wasn't making them pay. It was building a life so full, so vibrant, so completely mine that they became irrelevant to my story. They broke the version of me who didn't know her worth. And honestly, I'm grateful for that. Because the person I became after they shattered me is someone I actually love. Someone who knows that loyalty isn't ignoring red flags. That trust isn't blind faith. That loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. I didn't need karma to destroy them. I just needed it to teach me that some people destroy themselves, and the strongest thing you can do is step back and let them. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Until next time.